Hey guys, and happy Homebrew Wednesday. How are you? I hope that you are doing well and life is good and that you've had great, happy holidays and are enjoying this holiday season, of course. I thought I'd give you a quick update on some of the brews, basically where I left off before, actually I think it was before Thanksgiving, even before I went to Vermont. So I haven't checked in since then, and I basically thought I'd at least bring you up to date with how things are going, how things have been. Here in the brewery, I have not actually brewed at all since before Thanksgiving. I've got a few 4 beers on tap right now, 5 actually, if you count an older wit. But yeah, let's go ahead and just talk a little bit about these beers. The first one I poured out was the Belgian Double that I brewed up with Gunnar. As you can see, it is a lot lighter than a double probably should be. But let's go in for the aroma. Coming off, getting some nice sort of lemony, spicy notes from it. It's tasting, smelling more like a farmhouse Saison for the flavor. Yep, definitely get more of that lemony Saison sort of flavors. And you know what? That's okay. It's a little bit over 7%, and it's doing quite nicely. I think it's going to be in the keg for a while because I'm not drinking a lot these days. I'm basically just sort of taking it easy. So moving on, going to the next beer. The next beer that I poured was, yeah, that's the alt beer. Alt beer came in at 4% ABV. It's definitely darker than I was going for, but as you can see, it's actually not bad. It's a really nice dark character to it. Yeah, it's definitely a darker version of a Dusseldorf alt beer, but there it is. Flavor is really nice light malt profile on it, and it's almost it's right on the border of a lager-esque, but it's obviously not. It's an ale. It's very light body, again 4%, and the maltiness on it is very subtle. It's got a very nice pleasant flavor to it, but yeah, I would probably want something with just a little bit more body on it, just to sort of show its presence. But then again, I haven't actually had a real alt beer to compare it to, so perhaps one day I'll be able to do that. Okay, so the next beer that I poured off, this was the Party Isle. So this was what I'm calling the British Mild. And again, this one is coming off. It's very dark. Can't even see through it. But the aroma and flavor on it is definitely slightly chocolate, more sort of dark toast. The aromas sort of die down on it. Yeah, the flavor is definitely, actually I would go more with a light toastiness to it. It's light body, but not as light as the alt beer. So it's got a little bit more body character to it. This is probably, out of the two, my favorite. This one came in at 4.8%. So again, something you can just go ahead and throw a few of these back and still be fine the next day. So, alright. And finally, moving on to this guy. This was the Imperial Stout. So this was like the one that was mostly just pale malt, and I think some Munich and chocolate malt. And it was before I added in the flavor ingredients before Thanksgiving. It was a little bit one-dimensional. Now, however, if you remember, I added in a couple ounces of oak chips, a cinnamon pod, a vanilla pod, a cinnamon stick, about 3 or 4 cardamom pods, and also a few nellik, a few cloves, actually full cloves, 3 of them. And now this beer is totally different, totally different. I can't overstate that enough. On the aroma, man, I'm getting all sorts of Christmas off this beer. It's screaming gingerbread to me, really is what it is. It's really about, oh my god, it's so much of that ginger and almost like a mix between gingerbread and also like spice cake. So I get a lot of that cloviness over as well. Let's go ahead and dive in for the flavor. Full body mouthfeel, and the flavor follows the aroma. It's all gingerbread and clove spice cake. It's just, wow. This is definitely one of those beers where it's turned out way above and beyond my expectations, and I can't say enough about it. I would love to be able to send out a few of these to a few guys and see what you guys think. I know I'll definitely get some to locally to Gunnar, Andrew, and Sticky Tentacles. Yeah, we'll see where else it can go from there. But really, really enjoying this one. That's definitely, it's a, you know what? And I can't get a lot, I don't get hardly any alcohol on it at all. The flavor, the aroma, it's basically covered by that gingerbread and spice cake sort of flavors and aroma. 13% though, so you gotta watch that one. That'll bite you in the ass. All right, one more beer I wanted to give you an update on was the cherry Saison. So this was the one that I brewed up and fermented out with all the Bretts, and it got really, really low, down to like 1.004, maybe 1.002. And then I added in a kilo of cherry puree on it, and then threw in all the Bretts. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see how it's evolved. Man, need a different. A little bit of a hiss there. Let's go ahead and get the pour. There we go. Nice looking beer. It's a little bit lighter on my take. I'm gonna go ahead and shine a little light on this guy because it's definitely gonna come through. You can go, it's a really dark sort of cherry colors to it. If I look at it in the light, it kind of looks like a it's more like a red ale. Yeah, it's kind of like a red ale, really dark red ale. Let's go ahead and get the aroma. I'm definitely getting a lot of fruity notes on that. Definitely dark fruits, and I know it's cherry, so I can pull that out, but it's right on sort of the border of cherry and raspberry. Let's go ahead and dive in for the flavor. Getting a really nice tartness to it. It's not sour. I'm not getting any sour notes from it, and I wouldn't expect it to, but it's certainly tart. So I'm definitely getting some tart, and it's got that nice bready fruitiness to it. So it's a little bit, it's not as pronounced as I hoped it would be. So it's definitely on a mild side. So this could actually be a pretty good gateway beer for people going from something like pale ales, IPAs, and then bridging that gap before they get to sours. This is kind of like probably a nice little stepping stone. So it's nice and tart and fruity. And yeah, the flavor on it is some of that cherry / raspberry-esque type flavors. really, really nice, very, very subtle. So enjoying that one. So these are the beers that I have on tap, and that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. For you guys know that I did take a little trip home for Thanksgiving. I did head back to Vermont, and while I was there, of course, I had to send away and get a few things while I was there. First and foremost was, so I went ahead and sent off to Blickman for some new replacement rings for the valves that they have inside their new heads on the pumps. So I went ahead and got some more of those O-ring adapters. I went ahead and changed them out, so these things are good to go. I got a few extras for the future, just in case it is the PBW that's actually breaking them down. So these should last me at least a couple of years. So we'll see how that goes. Also, while I was in Vermont, I went ahead and took the opportunity to upgrade for my filter. Alright, so I've been using the Blickman hop blocker for a very, very long time, and I've been very happy with it. It's definitely able to clear out most of the hops after the boil, when I whirlpool and stuff like that. But it doesn't always do the best job. Basically, one of the things I don't like about this is that every single time I'm done with the boil and I start to do the whirlpool, is that I'll always disconnect the hose on my kettle outlet and collect at least about probably a pint of wort that's definitely concentrated with hops that are sitting underneath the bottom of this thing before it goes into my pump. And because it's at boiling temperatures, or pretty close to that, you know, it's definitely above pasteurization temperatures, I'll usually pour that right back into the top of my kettle. And then I'll go ahead and hook up the hose to the pump, and then go ahead and start the recirculation. Now, basically that's because these big holes are letting a lot of things through. So that's sort of one of my pains. It's not a huge pain. It takes, what, probably 30 seconds to do after a brew day before I set up the whirlpool port. So it's not a big deal. But I've been looking at a newer solution out there. I used to have, or I used to use the original hop blocker from the Electric Brewery website. I was happy with it for a while, but it leaves a lot of wort at the bottom. And I received an email from a viewer who watches the channel. I'll go ahead and put your name up here. I really appreciate your feedback on this. Really nice comments that I get back from this guy. And he highly recommended the hop blocker, or the hop stopper 2.0. So while I was home in Vermont, I went ahead and ordered one of these. You know, it comes with this, and it also comes with the dip tube. This attachment comes with the Blickman kettle, so I took this off the old dip tube. It's the same size, and basically this just goes right here inside the in the O-ring, and then put that into your kettle. And basically the new design is supposed to allow more wort through the filter than it did before. The old filter, yeah, I would probably lose close to 2 to 3 liters in the bottom of the kettle after every brew day. But supposedly this filter is supposed to not do that so much. So I went ahead and ordered up this one. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a whirl next brew day. Also, one of the pains that I don't like dealing with on a brew day is the long cables on my Milwaukee 102 pH meter. So I used to have one of these Hatch Pocket Pros, and I dropped it. Actually, it fell on the floor from the shelf, and it acts like it's not calibrated or whatever. The numbers just constantly change and shift. It's destroyed. It might actually just be the probe. But I went ahead, and I missed it so much, I went ahead and ordered a new one. So I got a new Pocket Pro. So the numbers are much more stable nowadays. So I'm going to go ahead and start to use this one instead of the Milwaukee 102, just because the cables get in the way. And yeah, it's just a pain. So, but then again, it's a good thing that at least now I have a backup to to go to just to make sure. So, you know, sometimes you'll take a pH reading and you're not really sure if you can trust it or not. So at least now I know I have a trusty backup that I can use to verify all my pH readings with. Also, I've been dealing with, I've been playing around with Inkscape a little bit and trying to come up with a new logo. So while I was in the US, I also contacted Bottle Mark up on the website and sent off for a few new bottle caps. So I got a new bottle cap design. That's basically what the logo is going to be looking like, the new Northern Rock Brewery logo. I'll go ahead and throw up a picture of it right here so you can kind of see a preview of that. So yeah, even though the videos are going to start off with the old logo probably for the next foreseeable future, the new logos for the caps and basically the brewery will be this one. So anyways guys, that's all that's going on in my neck of the woods. I hope that you guys are having a hell of a week, having a hell of a happy holidays, have a happy new year. We'll see you in 2019. Cheers everyone. Cheers. Oh yes, a special message goes out to SJ Pour. I saw his video earlier today talking about one of his highlights this year was of course going to HomebrewCon. That was definitely one of the highlights for me, and one of the highlights for him was meeting me. And you know what, Steven, I feel exactly the same way as you do. It was such a highlight to be able to meet you guys this year as well. For those of you that have been watching the channel for a long time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that earlier this year, you know, one of the things I did was I built a new control panel. And I sold that control panel, and I was going to use the money that I made for that and buy a new microscope so that I can get more into yeast and bacteria. I actually had a kidney failure earlier this year in January, and had to do a couple operations because of it. And instead of using the money for a new microscope, basically what I did was I used that money instead to go to HomebrewCon. And it was one of those moments, one of those things that happened. It was basically, you know, eyes opening, life changing experience where you think, you know, you realize that, you know, it's the experiences and the people that you meet in this world that are much more important than any of the possessions that you have that you can't take with you when your life is over. So I decided to go ahead and use the money from the control panel, and instead of buying a microscope, I went ahead and went to HomebrewCon. So when I saw SJ Pour's video earlier today, it definitely reminded me of that, and I wanted to go ahead and share that with you guys and let you know that that's basically what happened with the money. That's why I don't have a microscope yet. That's why I haven't got into the whole yeast and bacteria thing yet. It's because I used that money to go to HomebrewCon, meet up with Steven, meet up with Mike Dean, Under the Table Brewing, gosh, Jossie Coeur, Man Bear Pig, Ryan Rashawn, of course Kevin Clements. I got to meet Christian. Yeah, just a whole swirl of people. And I'm sorry if I forgot your name and you're watching this video. I truly apologize. But going to HomebrewCon, the National Homebrewers Conference, that was definitely the highlight of this year for me. Going over and meeting all of my homebrew heroes. And I really appreciate that, guys. So, again, that's all that's going on in my neck of the woods. Thanks a lot for joining in and tuning in and watching this channel. I appreciate it. Cheers. Cheers to all of you.